Let's talk about these memes from Harvard that got several students admission rescinded. So several students who were accepted to Harvard University had their admission withdrawn from 10 students, and it was because they shared dark humor memes. We're not going to share the memes because they are that dark. But essentially what happened is within a group, there's a group called Harvard Memes for Horny Bourgeois Teens. But there's a subgroup of that group that is even more, how shall we say, effed up than the main group that started sharing memes. And it included memes from 10 students who were already accepted to Harvard. Now, we don't even have to have a discussion about the difficulty of getting accepted to Harvard and the level to which many people consider that to be like a lifetime achievement just to get accepted to Harvard. But after being accepted, these teens found it acceptable for them to share very disturbing memes. So it formed out of the official Harvard College Class of 2021 Facebook group. And in order to get entry, you had to post an entry into this subgroup. You had to post a, quote, wild meme in the Bourgeois Teens group. Once the university, Harvard University here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, found out about it, it sent letters asking students to explain themselves, and it subsequently led to the rescinding of 10 acceptance letters. So there's 10 students who thought they were on their way to Boston, who are now staying in their local communities. Now, again, I'm not going to share the memes because they were that disturbing, but they included jokes about your ethnicity, jokes about your religion, jokes about Islam, jokes about Judaism, jokes about child rape, jokes about, I mean, just the most disturbing things that you could think of. The one joke that got past me, and I will reference this because I saw all of the memes. The one that got past me was about having sex and the parent hearing you have sex, but you are afraid to make any noise because the parent would hear it over the baby monitor. Now, me being my innocent self, because I can't say naive, but I'm relatively innocent. I thought of it as, oh, I'm having sex with a teen, like I'm a teenager having sex with a teen, or I am an adult in my having sex with another adult in their parents' house, because, you know, most kids don't leave their home until they're 27, 28, and there happens to be a baby monitor in the room. No, Ben Dixon, you are too damn naive. This was a joke about having sex with a child, with a baby who needs a baby monitor. And so, obviously, I missed it because I'm naive as hell, but Harvard did not miss it. Harvard saw it and rescinded these applications. So the question really comes back to not so much free speech and not so much acceptable speech, but the question comes back to what do we excuse underneath the auspices of free speech and underneath the auspices of humor and dark humor. I do have a dark sense of humor, but I have my own personal threshold. Like I wasn't even dark enough to even consider that when they talk about having sex and the mother hearing it over the baby monitor, my mind instantly went to adults having sex or mutually aged teenagers having sex, and there happens to be a baby. No, that's not dark enough. We're really talking about dark humor that crosses every threshold, that crosses every boundary for the sake of crossing the boundaries. That's what we're really talking about. And since we know, or since we are supposed to assume that these individuals are not pedophiles and that these individuals are not default racist because of what they share, we should assume that this is performative art for the sake of performative art. How dark can you get for the sake of saying I'm getting dark with my humor? That's one side of the equation. And in that realm of the conversation, I guess there's really no threshold that you can say, oh, I'm not going to post this meme because personally for me it's too dark. In other words, in this realm, it's going to say, I'm going to post the absolute worst thing I can possibly think of, not because I think this way, but because the challenge is to say, how far can we go with a meme? That's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is Harvard University saying, do we want to be affiliated with people who see it as a challenge? Whether or not it's sincerely humor, whether or not it's sincerely an art form, whether or not it's sincerely an expression of their First Amendment right, do we as a university want to be affiliated with people who would publicly or even semi-publicly post something like this? Harvard University has resoundingly said, no, this is not something that we want to be affiliated with. And so they have disassociated themselves with 10 students. Now, of course, this is going to come back down to the First Amendment. Do they have a right to say these things? And should the university? But also, we also have the right to association, the right to free association. And do we want to be affiliated with people who see value in challenging each other to engage in an ever-increasing level of dark humor? Because at a certain level, we cross a threshold, in my opinion, we cross a threshold of dark humor to the point where it's no longer humor, it's simply dark. And yes, do they have a right to say that? Absolutely. You can say whatever the hell you want to say in the United States of America, but you do not have the right to say what you want to say without the ramifications of your actions. And so 10 students have found out already early in life, 17, 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds, whatever the hell age they are, class of 2021, have found out that they are not above the ramifications of their free speech. There is responsibility attached to your speech, no matter what it is. We found that out last week with Kathy Griffin. Her speech included a graphic image of Donald Trump's head. And as a result of Kathy Griffin showing the severed head of Donald Trump, she lost her job, and in my opinion, rightfully so, from CNN, albeit I did not even know she was on CNN. I don't follow Kathy Griffin. Her career is kind of pointless to me. It's pointless to me as my career is to her, but I digress. But the point is, you do not get to say what you want to say without the ramifications that are attached to it. And this is a lesson that has been learned early on. Unfortunately, it cost students acceptance into Harvard University. Now, of course, people are going to throw out their Tuquoque, if I can pronounce it the best way I can, their argument of hypocrisy that Harvard University has on their shield, historically shown on their shield, images of slaves. And so how can Harvard University challenge these students about issues of what's correct and proper when Harvard University, like many universities in the United States, has a history of slavery? I will simply say that's not necessarily a competition or an argument that you want to make when you're 17/18 years old trying to get acceptance into one of the most prestigious universities in America. That's not, to point out the problems with Harvard University is not going to float with them when they have the ability to say yes or no to you. But I think what matters the most on this story is whether or not we as a society are willing to draw a line and say, yes, you have the freedom to say whatever you want to say, but here are the ramifications. And because of those ramifications that are not necessarily from the federal government, or in most cases not at all from the federal government, but from the broader society, from private corporations, from businesses who do not want to deal with people who engage in dark humor simply for the sake of darkness, not even for the sake of humor, but for the sake of darkness. I think it's wise for us to realize that society as a whole has a right to relegate to the dregs of society people who find it entertaining to forever push the envelope of darkness for the sake of darkness and not necessarily for the sake of humor.